Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 96th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. In this video, I'll be discussing the idea of quantum entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance, which is basically the fact that two or more particles can be entangled or linked together. And if you change the state of one particle, it instantly affects the state of the other particle, regardless of the distance between them. Now, what I find really interesting about this idea is that scientists are now trying to figure out, how it applies to certain particle pairs. But how about applying it to the Big Bang and the singularity, which existed before the Big Bang? And this idea of quantum entanglement, we assume that it's like there are some rules and that it's more like an exception rather than the rule. That is, that it only applies to certain particles that are entangled. But what if this singularity, when the universe was basically as big as the pin of a needle, even maybe smaller, um, is pure quantum entanglement? That is, quantum entanglement is the rule and not the exception. And our entire universe is built on exceptions to the rules of quantum entanglement. And so you can think of the singularity as being the entire universe entangled with itself, and any action on one part of the universe affects the entire universe instantly. Or you cannot even separate part of the universe and another part of the universe, because you're actually, whenever you move one part, you move every other part instantly. And the idea is that the Big Bang is simply exceptions to infinite quantum entanglement. And so perhaps the true nature of the universe is an infinite quantum entanglement of everything, which is, we would call that God, singularity, source, whatever. And then you can build rules or exceptions for this quantum entanglement to actually function. So, for instance, with the rules of physics, chemistry, and biology, um, you you are actually entangled with your entire universe, everything around you. But you put these layers or these rules on top of the entanglement, and then you can interact with objects. Like, for instance, you can pick up a glass, you can touch your desk, and that gives you a limited entanglement experience where you can act or affect certain parts of the universe around you, but only based on certain exceptions, like physics, chemistry, biology. And so when you pick up a glass, basically, you are just resuming your entanglement, has already been there with that glass of water. Um, and like there are rules for resuming the natural entanglement that you have with objects. For instance, all of humanity is naturally entangled, but we use well, of course, all of these laws now are limiting us, but then we put the internet, we put social media, internet, social media, and all kinds of things, and phones, to increase the entanglement that we have with other humans. And we just, with new kind of features or rules. Like, you can actually affect somebody else at a distance, but you have to call them on a phone. And of course, when you discuss anything with anyone, there's an exchange of information. So if as I'm, for instance, recording this video and publishing it, and you're watching it, you you are like a bundle of vibrations information. And by listening to my video, information enters your perception and your vibration changes, because now you've heard what I have to say, and you're not the same person. You're not the same person that you were before you listened to my video. So we are entangled. Everything is entangled. Um, but then you can build rules and exceptions for that entanglement, and saying that, well, you can affect things around you, but you give yourselves certain limitations or certain conditions for resuming that natural entanglement that you have with everything. And that is the whole construction of the ego, the construction of consciousness being limited to the body. All of that is part of restricting quantum entanglement. And it makes me think of, this scene in the Matrix where you have this spoon that Neo has to bend, and the kid says, once you bend the spoon, you realize it's not the spoon you're bending, it's yourself. And so that's the whole idea, is that ultimately the entire universe is yourself, because you're entangled with all of it infinitely. But you can put certain barriers or boundaries for parts of the universe to be able to interact with other parts without affecting the whole, or at least by affecting the whole, but with certain like certain power or degree to which you affect something. For instance, the laws of gravity is an interesting limitation in terms of, or electromagnetism is an interesting limitation feature for quantum entanglement. It means that you have to be close to an object to affect it. And it means that the more mass you have, the more you affect things around you. Whereas in the singularity, it doesn't matter what mass you have. You can touch any little part of that. Let's assume that this is the universe, and that's as small as the pin of a needle, maybe less. And if you touch this part, it instantly affects all the rest, regardless of how big or small it is, because it's so entangled with everything that it affects everything instantly. And now with, for instance, the law or the rules of gravity, now you have a rule for how much entanglement you have, depending on the mass and the distance and all those kind of things. So so yeah, the Big Bang may actually not be what we think it is. It may just be new information or rules superimposed onto various parts of that singularity, which breaks the entanglement and then gives you the illusion that we live in this universe, this huge universe, where in fact we may still be this singularity, but just with these various parts placing rules and limitations on how much they're entangled with other parts. And that gives you the illusion that there is space, time, that there is, that it's so vast and big. But it's just about exceptions to quantum entanglement, which then manifests in the form as a huge universe. So I hope you found this video interesting, and feel free to comment, and talk to you in the next video.